Welcome back to The Lost Tactician. Today we're diving into one of history's most captivating mysteries, a weapon so terrifying, so devastating, that its true composition died with an empire. Imagine standing aboard a Mediterranean galley in the 7th century, watching your fleet approach what you believe is an easy victory. Then suddenly the sky erupts, not with arrows or stones, but with liquid fire that ignites on water itself. Nothing can extinguish it. This is Byzantine fire, the weapon that saved an empire, terrorized the ancient world, and then vanished from history as if it never existed. Constantinople was suffocating under siege. Arab fleets descended upon the harbour with overwhelming force, confident that these weakened Christian defenders would crumble. The empire's generals knew the mathematics were merciless. They were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. But they possessed something their enemies did not, a secret so profound that the Byzantine hierarchy chose to guard it more jealously than the city itself. What the Arab commanders witnessed defied explanation. From Byzantine warship prows, a substance began to flow, something that seemed to exist between liquid and pure malevolence. It streamed across the water like a living thing, igniting the sea into an inferno. Waves became walls of flame. Sailors abandoned ship, choosing drowning over burning. Those who survived spoke of divine judgment, of sorcery, of impossibilities made manifest. They called it Greek fire, and it became the stuff of nightmares. The psychological impact was devastating. When an enemy believes they face the impossible, resistance crumbles. Entire battle plans evaporate. Commanders lost sleep, questioning their divine favor. The Byzantines recognized this immediately and weaponized the mystery. They didn't just deploy Greek fire, they let whispers spread. They allowed captured samples to fall into enemy hands while ensuring no one could replicate them. They created an aura of invincibility that extended far beyond the substance's actual capabilities. Byzantine fire was part of a comprehensive weapon system, not just a simple incendiary tossed haphazardly. The primary delivery mechanism was the siphon, which was, in essence, an ancient flamethrower mounted on the prow of the droman, a specialized warship. Just imagine the engineering involved. A bronze tube, a pressure pump operated by trained specialists, and a heating mechanism to keep everything at the right temperature. When ignited and released, pressurized jets of burning liquid would stream toward enemy vessels, all accompanied by this terrifying metallic shriek. Contemporary accounts even described these ships as dragon ships, spouting fire like creatures of mythology. To enemies who'd never seen anything like it, it must have seemed as if they were facing actual beasts of legend. The substance itself had a truly critical property. It burned with phenomenal intensity, even on water. While most standard incendiaries would just disperse and drown, Greek fire actually spread across the surface, devouring everything that could burn. Ship hulls soaked in flammable pitch became, well, torches. Sails would just ignite like paper. The only known extinguishing agents were sand, vinegar, or old urine. Substances that were, honestly, quite difficult to use in the chaos of naval combat. Tactically speaking, the Byzantines deployed Greek fire with real surgical precision. They didn't use it indiscriminately. Instead, they'd start out by engaging the enemy in a conventional way, drawing them in and provoking a sense of overconfidence. Then, at the critical moment, Draconic warships would position themselves upwind, and the siphons would ignite. The resulting carnage was, frankly, absolute. Those caught in the flames would panic, break formation, and even ram each other in their desperate attempts to escape. After that, Byzantine archers would pick off survivors with a methodical efficiency. The strategic impact was profound. Without Greek fire, modern historians broadly agree that Constantinople would have fallen during the 7th and 8th century Arab invasions. The entire Byzantine Empire would have collapsed, fundamentally altering European history. The substance's introduction coincided with superior ship design and trained operators, creating a devastating combination. The dromon could be rapidly maneuvered, positioning Greek fire weapons within effective range. Smaller Byzantine fleets routed larger enemy forces. But the Byzantines understood a crucial principle. The secret's value lay in its secrecy. Therefore, the Byzantine state implemented what we might recognize as classified intelligence protocols. The formula was restricted to an elite circle, possibly the imperial family itself. Some sources credit invention to an engineer named Kallinikos, though this attribution remains debated. Security measures were extreme. The substance was never sold or traded. Documents describing composition were destroyed with obsessive regularity. Knowledge was transmitted orally, from master engineer to apprentice, in intimate settings where betrayal meant personal catastrophe. Byzantine emperors demanded sacred oaths from those entrusted with the secret. Penalty for disclosure was execution, sometimes extending to family members. The enigma that haunts historians isn't whether Greek fire existed. The evidence is overwhelming. The mystery is what happened to the formula. How does knowledge possessed by an organized state apparatus, maintained across centuries, simply vanish? By the 15th century, when Ottoman forces descended on Constantinople, the Byzantine state had shrunk to the city itself. The institutional knowledge that had been carefully guarded and transmitted across generations had fragmented. The scribes who might have documented the formula had been reassigned. The apprentices who might have inherited the secret through oral tradition were distributed across a crumbling empire, their connections severed by war. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 likely sealed the formula's fate. When Ottoman forces breached the walls and slaughtered much of the imperial bureaucracy, the last custodians of the secret almost certainly perished. Some were killed in battle, others were executed. Without institutional support, without documentation, without a network of practitioners to reinforce tradition, that knowledge fragmented and degraded. Within a generation, the original formula was lost to living memory. Some scholars suggest the secrets were deliberately destroyed as the empire contracted. If knowledge couldn't be protected, perhaps it should be eliminated entirely, rather than risk it falling into enemy hands. It's entirely plausible that final guardians made a conscious choice. If we cannot maintain this weapon, no one will possess it. Contemporary scholars have spent decades attempting to reverse engineer Greek fire. Historical descriptions are remarkably consistent. A liquid that ignited on contact with water, burned with extraordinary intensity, spread across water's surface, and could only be extinguished by sand, vinegar, or urine. The leading hypothesis centers on quicklime or calcium oxide. When quicklime contacts water, an exothermic reaction releases heat rapidly. Combined with flammable liquid like naphtha or crude oil, plus thickening agents like resin or pitch, the resulting mixture would possess nearly all documented properties. The quicklime would ignite when substance reached water, while oil base sustained the burn, and thickening agents allowed mixture to cling to wooden hulls. Yet despite these theories, no modern recreation perfectly matches historical descriptions. Modern napalm exceeds Greek fire's capabilities in some respects, but none possess the water ignition property exactly as described. This gap between theory and evidence remains history's most tantalizing riddle. Greek fire fundamentally changed military strategy. Commanders recognized that technological advantage could offset numerical disadvantage. The weapon established a precedent: underestimate novel military technology at your peril. Gunpowder artillery, machine guns, nuclear weapons, each seemed impossible until deployed. The formula's secrecy established a model for strategic intelligence that persists today. The Byzantine approach, restricting knowledge to an elite, employing misdirection, controlling information leaks, anticipated modern classified protocols. As we contemplate Byzantine fire across 14 centuries, we confront a historical irony. A weapon created to ensure an empire's survival ultimately couldn't prevent its collapse. The Byzantines traded long-term institutional continuity for short-term strategic advantage. They bought their civilization precious centuries of survival, but ensured that when the empire fell, the knowledge would be lost forever. This story speaks to us across the centuries about resilience, ingenuity, and the fragility of power. If you found this exploration compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more investigations into how ingenuity and strategy have shaped our world. Thank you for joining the Lost Tactician.